Welcome to the world of science fiction Neon's Alien. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story from Neon's Alien universe. Flames rose high above the city of Ravzar. It had once been the crown jewel of the alien planet Zethria, a city of crystal towers and glowing rivers. Now, everything burned. The ground shook with distant blasts. Screams echoed through the smoke. The human and alien war had turned this peaceful world into ash. But tonight, there was no war. A fragile ceasefire had been declared. Human soldier Sergeant Darren Knox moved slowly through the ruined streets, his rifle lowered, helmet cracked. His mission was simple: search for survivors and avoid conflict. No fighting. No killing, just help. The night was hot, the air thick with smoke. Darren's boots crunched over broken crystal as he passed what used to be a market. The alien shops were empty now, only shadows and fire left behind. Then he heard it, a sound he wasn't expecting. Crying. It was faint, almost hidden beneath the wind and fire. But it was real. Darren turned his head sharply. He followed the sound, weaving through rubble. He stopped at what had once been a grand temple, now crushed by falling debris. Another cry. Closer this time. Darren dropped his gear and pushed a fallen beam aside with both arms. Under a pile of broken stone, he saw movement. A child, small, covered in dust, skin glowing faintly in the smoke. An alien girl. She looked no older than 7 or 8. Her eyes were wide, shining gold, her arms were thin and scraped. Her silver-white hair was tangled and full of ash. When she saw Darren, this tall, armored human with scars and dirt, she screamed in fear and tried to crawl back. No, it's okay," he said quickly, dropping his weapon. "I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't understand his words, but she understood his voice. Gentle, not angry. He held his hands out. Then slowly, he knelt. The girl's legs were trapped under broken stone. Darren pulled out a tool from his belt and started carefully lifting the rocks. She whimpered, watching him closely. He looked her in the eye. "It's going to hurt a little, but I'll get you out." With a final push, he freed her legs. She gasped but didn't scream. "Strong girl." He gently lifted her in his arms. She flinched at first, but then leaned into him. Her skin was warm. Too warm. She was burning up with fever. "I need to get you to safety," he whispered. He looked around. No medbots, no safe zones. His own camp was too far, and worse. Alien guards could see him carrying her and think he was kidnapping her. Still, he moved. As Darren carried the girl through the smoke, explosions rumbled in the distance. A building cracked behind him and fell into pieces. He ran through back alleys and ducked under broken bridges. The girl clutched his chest plate tightly. "Do you have a name?" he asked. She didn't answer. Then she whispered something in her alien tongue. He caught one word. Zira. Zira. That was the name of the alien queen's daughter. Darren froze mid-step, the child in his arms. Wasn't just any girl. She was royalty. No wonder her clothing had fine gold patterns even under the dust. No wonder her eyes glowed with such depth. No wonder someone had tried to bury her alive. She had been targeted. Darren swallowed hard. His mission was clear now. This wasn't about a soldier saving a child. This was about a human saving the most important alien girl in the galaxy, and if anyone saw him carrying her, he could be shot. A noise behind him. Darren turned fast. Shadows moved in the smoke, alien guards tall and armored, their eyes glowing like fire. They raised their weapons. "Don't move, human," one of them shouted in harsh galactic common. Darren raised both hands but didn't let go of the girl. "She's alive," he said. "I pulled her out of the rubble. I'm not your enemy." The guards advanced quickly. The girl woke, looked up, and spoke one word, loud and clear. "No." She pointed to Darren, then held onto his armor tightly. The guards stopped. They looked at the child, confused. One of them whispered, "That's the heir." The leader lowered his weapon slightly. "We will take her. Darren shook his head. She's hurt. She needs medical attention. Let me take her to my ship. You are not worthy to touch her. The guard snapped, but before he could step forward, the little girl lifted her hand and placed it on Darren's cheek. Safe, she said softly. Everyone froze. Even the guards. And from behind the guards, a new figure stepped out. Tall, regal, eyes like stars, the alien queen herself. She walked slowly through the flames, staring at the scene, at the human, at her daughter, at the impossible truth. The queen's voice was cold as ice. You, human, why are you holding my child? Darren stood straight, Zira still in his arms, and he answered, because I was the only one who did. Smoke curled around the broken temple steps. The alien queen stood tall, her gown made of shining crystal strands that shimmered even in the ash-filled air. Her face was cold and unreadable. Her eyes burned like twin suns locked on one single target. The human soldier, holding her daughter. Guards surrounded him now, weapons raised, ready to fire. But they hadn't yet, because Princess Zira, the future of their world, was holding tightly to the human's chest, refusing to let go. Place the child down, the queen said. Her voice was calm, but sharp like a blade. Darren didn't move. He held the girl carefully, making sure her injured leg stayed still. She's hurt, he said. She needs help, not threats. One of the guards snarled. Silence, human. You stand before our queen. But the queen raised one hand, silencing him instantly. Her eyes narrowed. Why would a human risk his life for my blood? Darren slowly knelt and gently laid Zira on a soft patch of cloth from his bag. She whimpered, but didn't cry. She was alone, Darren said. Trapped, buried alive. No one was coming for her. I was coming, the queen said sharply. Too late, he replied, standing again. I found her. The guards shifted, tense. Weapons twitched. No one spoke to the queen that way. Zira reached out and grabbed Darren's hand. She didn't want him to leave. That simple act shocked everyone, even the queen. She stepped forward slowly. Her face softened, for only a second when she looked at her daughter. Then the mask returned. Guards, she said. Take the child to the royal medic. Darren gently let go of her hand. Zira looked up at him confused, but he gave her a small nod. You're safe now. The guards carefully lifted her, but when they turned away, she whispered something softly. Too soft for them to hear. But not the queen. She had sharp ears. She turned to Darren, her voice now, like ice. What did you do to make her say that? What? She said, don't hurt him. The queen stared into Darren's eyes. You earned her trust, somehow. That is not a small thing. He didn't respond, because he wasn't sure how either. Instead of ordering his death, the queen did something no one expected. She raised her hand and said, This soldier is my guest. Everyone blinked. Escort him to the palace. Under watch. Darren was stunned. I'm not a diplomat. I'm not. You are now, she said, and walked away. Hours later, Darren stood in a quiet, bright room inside the alien palace. The floors glowed with blue light. Everything was strange, beautiful, and silent. 2 guards stood at the door, not smiling. He washed up and sat on the edge of the alien-style resting platform. He was tired, sore, and unsure what he had just walked into. Why had she spared him? Why had she taken him in? A soft sound. He looked up. Zira entered, limping slightly, her leg wrapped in silver bandages. She smiled. She walked over and sat beside him. You okay? He asked. She nodded. Then she took something from her pocket. A small, glowing crystal. She placed it in his hand. Darren blinked. What's this? She smiled again. Gift. The door opened again. This time, the queen stepped inside. Alone. Her presence filled the room like a storm. Zira stood, bowed, then left without a word. Darren stood unsure what to do. The Queen walked toward him slowly. "She should hate you," she said. "Your kind destroyed her father." Darren froze. "Her father was human?" She nodded. "And I destroyed him," she added coldly. "With my own hands. Because he betrayed me." Silence. "I don't trust humans," she said. "But my daughter does." She stepped closer. "So now, I must know why." Darren met her eyes. "I don't care what race she is," he said. "I saw a child in danger, and I chose to help." The Queen stared at him for a long time. Then softly she said, "If that is true, then you are not like the others." She turned to leave. But before she reached the door, she said one more thing. "You may stay, for now. But if you lie, I'll know." The alien palace was like a dream wrapped in crystal and silence. For 2 days, Darren stayed inside it under guard. He was allowed to move, but not outside. He slept, ate, and wandered the glowing halls alone. No other humans were present. He felt like a shadow among stars, but he was not completely alone. Every day Princess Zira visited him. She came in the mornings, her limp healing, her energy returning. Sometimes she brought small gifts, alien toys, glowing stones, or fruit from her world. Sometimes they just talked. Well, tried to. Her English was broken. His alien tongue was worse, but kindness had its own language. And slowly a strange friendship grew. On the 3rd day, Zira led him through a narrow passage hidden behind a wall. "Not allowed," she whispered. "But safe." He followed her. Dayan. Tunnel opened into a secret garden. Massive trees with silver leaves, floating flowers that sang when touched. A glowing pond in the center. Darren gasped. "This place? Only Queen." "And me," Zira said proudly. He knelt beside the pond. The water shimmered with memory. "What is this?" he asked. Zira smiled. "Truth pool." He raised an eyebrow. "Truth?" She touched the surface with one finger. A ripple formed. And then, images. Younger version of Zira's mother, the Queen, standing beside a human man. They were smiling, hands touching, peaceful. Then, warships, fire, betrayal. The man falling. The Queen screaming. Then, Zira as a baby, glowing in a cradle made of starlight. Darren stepped back. "That's her father?" Zira nodded. "She hide this." "Why?" "Because council say, no mix, no love." Darren understood now. The Queen wasn't just proud, she was alone, shamed by her own people, forced to kill the one she once loved to save, her throne. And Zira? She was living proof of that forbidden past. Suddenly, soft footsteps behind them. The Queen had arrived. Darren stood quickly. "I didn't know. She brought me here." But the Queen raised her hand. "It's fine." She looked at her daughter, then at the pond. "You've seen my shame?" "No," Darren said. "I saw something honest." She didn't reply for a moment, then, "Zira never brings anyone here, not even my guards. She trusts you in ways I do not understand." Darren looked at the child, then back to the Queen. She just needed someone to be there when no one else was. The Queen walked forward, stood near the water. "The Council believes peace is weakness. They would rather start another war than accept that one of us could care for one of you." She turned to Darren. "But I have watched you. You're not, like the others." "I'm not special," Darren replied. "Just someone who did what was right." "Then you are more dangerous than you know," she whispered. Later that night, a servant led Darren through a high tower. Inside, the walls were covered in alien writing, history carved into the stone, and at the center of the room was a book an ancient record, written partly in human script. Darren opened it. Inside were the terms of an old alliance, signed by both human and alien leaders, but it had never been used. "Why hide this?" he asked aloud. The Queen entered quietly behind him. "Because peace frightens those who profit from fear." She stepped closer. "I showed you this because I need someone outside my world, someone my daughter trusts, to carry this truth." Darren turned to her. "You want me to bring this back to Earth?"
"No," she said. "I want you to protect it until she is old enough to lead." Darren blinked. "Zira." The Queen nodded. "She is more than a child. She is the bridge between our peoples, and that makes her the target of everyone who fears
peace." She stepped closer, her voice low and firm. "I cannot trust my guards. I cannot trust my council. But I may be forced to trust you." "Why me?" "Because my daughter smiles when she sees you." Outside, in the stars beyond the palace walls, a dark ship moved without sound. Inside it, a shadowy figure whispered, "The child still lives. The Queen is weak, and the human is now part of it. Begin the coup." The moonlight poured through the high palace windows. Everything was quiet, too quiet. Darren sat in his guest chamber polishing the edge of his old combat knife. He wasn't supposed to be armed in the palace, but he always kept this blade close. It wasn't for fighting. It was for reminding him of who he used to be. A soldier, a survivor, not a politician. But lately that was changing. Soft knock. The door opened. Princess Zira peeked in, smiling with sleepy eyes. "Can't sleep," she said. Darren grinned. "Me neither." She tiptoed in and curled up near the wall. "I had dream," she whispered. "A shadow came. I tried to shout, but no one heard." Darren's smile faded. "That wasn't a dream," he said softly. "That was a warning." He stood and checked the hallway. It was empty, but something felt wrong. The palace didn't hum with life tonight. The air felt still, cold. Zira tugged at his sleeve. "Can I stay here?" He nodded. "Of course." He closed the door, checked the lock, and pulled his knife closer. Somewhere above them, a cloaked figure slipped through a vent. Silent, hidden, deadly. The intruder moved through the Queen's private wing, past guards who were already unconscious. Poisoned tea hours ago. No blood. Just silence. Their goal was not the Queen. It was the child. Meanwhile, in the palace's great hall, Queen Thalira met with 3 council elders. Their faces were calm, but their words were sharp. "You brought a human into our heart," one hissed. "You risk the girl's bloodline becoming public," another warned. "The people must not know," a third said coldly. Thalira stood tall. "She's my daughter, and I will protect her with or without your approval." The elders exchanged a look. One of them smirked. "Then you'll die with her." Suddenly, boom! A shockwave shook the palace. The lights flickered. The Queen's eyes widened. "No." Back in Darren's room, Zira sat up fast. He stood instantly, hand on his knife. "Stay behind me." The door exploded inward. Smoke filled the chamber. Out of the fog stepped a tall assassin in black armor, his face hidden, his fingers glowing with energy. He didn't speak, just reached for Zira. Darren moved first. He shoved Zira behind a table and charged the figure without thinking. His knife flashed. The assassin blocked it with ease, but didn't expect Darren's second move. A punch, brutal, human-trained. The figure stumbled back, but not for long. A blast of energy hit Darren in the side, sending him flying into the wall. Zira screamed. The assassin moved toward her. "No!" Darren rose, with fire in his eyes, blood on his lip, pain in every bone. But he didn't care. He ran, grabbed a fallen rod from the wreckage, and slammed it against the assassin's back. This time, the figure dropped. Darren didn't stop. He beat him again, and again, until the assassin stopped moving. Breathing hard, Darren turned to Zira. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, then burst into tears. The door opened again. This time, it was the Queen. Her guards rushed in behind her. She froze at the scene. Darren, bleeding, holding her crying daughter, and a dead assassin on the floor. "No one got past my guards," she whispered. "Someone inside let them in," Darren said. "Check your counsel." They knew the night was quiet. The Queen's eyes darkened. She turned to her guards. "Seal the palace. No one leaves. Not even me." Later, in the throne room, she stood alone with Darren. Zira slept peacefully in a safe chamber below. "You were right," the Queen said. "There are traitors here, and I have been too proud to see it." "You're not alone," Darren said. She looked at him for a long time. Then, slowly, she removed a glowing gem from her crown and handed it to him. He stared at it. "What is this?" "A token only given to those who protect royal blood." "You mean a medal?" She smiled faintly. "No, I mean a vow." The royal chamber had never felt this quiet. Queen Thalira stood by the tall window watching the stars. Her robe, once flowing with pride and fire, now hung heavy on her shoulders. The gem crown on her head flickered, its light dimmer than usual. Behind her, Darren waited, the Queen's crystal token still in his hand. It pulsed softly like a living heart. He didn't know what it meant. Not yet. But he knew something big was coming, something that would change everything. The Queen finally spoke. "When I was younger, I believed power meant control, that to protect my people I must never bend." She turned to him, voice softer now. "Then I had a child with a human, a man I trusted, a man I loved. I bent, and I was punished for it." Darren didn't speak. He knew what this was. A confession. "They told me to kill her. The council feared her mixed blood, feared what she could be." Her voice broke. "But I hid her, raised her in secret. And then, when I feared I couldn't protect her anymore, I locked her behind walls." She looked up at him now, eyes burning. And still she was saved not by a king, not by a warrior, but by a human soldier who had every reason to walk away. Darren took a breath. "Anyone would have done what I did." "No," she said. "They wouldn't have." She stepped forward and held out a small glowing scroll. He took it and opened it carefully. Inside were ancient words, royal, sacred, a royal life bond proposal. He blinked, stunned. "What is this?" she explained calmly. "In our culture, to protect an heir, we do not hide her behind walls. We bind her to a guardian, not just in name but by fate, a sacred protector, a partner." Darren stared at the scroll. "You want me to marry her?" The Queen shook her head. "Not now. She's still a child. This is not about love. This is about survival." She walked back to the window. "If I fall, they will take her, use her bloodline, control her power." She turned back. "But if she's bound, protected by someone not of this world, someone outside our system, she becomes untouchable." Darren tried to understand. "And you're offering me that role?" She nodded. "I offer you the right to become her chosen guardian, in the oldest way our people know. When she comes of age, the bond becomes hers to accept or break." Silence filled the air. Darren looked down at the scroll again. He wasn't royalty. He wasn't even special. He was just a soldier who didn't walk away, and now he was being asked to become something far more. He finally spoke. "If I accept, I won't leave her side." "You won't be allowed to," she said. "You'll become part of her story, her shield, her sword, her only line between freedom and control." He stared at the stars outside the window. "They'll come for her again." "They already have," the Queen whispered. "But next time, she'll have someone to fight beside her." Just then, Zira entered the room. She ran to Darren and hugged him around the waist. He knelt, surprised. She looked up at him with wide, glowing eyes. "Are you leaving?" He smiled. "I don't think I can." She looked at her mother, then back at him. "Good," she whispered, "because you make me feel brave." The Queen watched in silence, and for the first time in many years, she felt something other than fear, hope, but deep in space, in the shadows of a forgotten moon, a council elder stood before a hidden army. He raised a hand. "The Queen will fall. The heir will be taken. And this time, the human will not stop us." The royal palace was no longer safe. It looked peaceful. The crystal towers still glowed. The guards still bowed. The Queen still stood strong, but something had changed. Darren felt it in the air. Too still. Too calm. Like before a storm. He stood near the princess's chambers, alert. He hadn't slept in 2 nights. Not since the Queen had offered him the life bond scroll. He hadn't said yes, but he hadn't said no either. He knew one thing now. Zira was his responsibility. A soft knock. Queen Thalira entered alone, her face pale, eyes sharp. "It's happening," she said quietly. "What?" "The council has moved. Tonight they will strike." Darren tensed. "Here?" She nodded. "They've poisoned some of my guards, bribed others. Their target is Zira. They will try to take her alive, for control." His hand went to his belt, where his knife still rested. "Then we move first." The Queen opened a secret wall. Behind it, a long, dim hallway. "This leads to the lower hangars, an old route forgotten. You'll find a ship waiting." Darren shook his head. "You're not coming?" "I'll hold them off. If they find all of us gone, they'll know the truth." He stepped forward. "You'll be killed." She gave a tired smile. "I've lived my part. It's time Zira lives hers." She turned away, but not before saying one last thing. "If you accept the bond, tell her in your own words." Then she was gone. Darren ran to Zira's room. She was already awake, dressed in travel robes. Her glowing eyes were full of questions. "Where's Mother?" "She's staying behind." Tears welled in her eyes. "No, she's giving us time," Darren said, kneeling. "You trust me?" She nodded. "Then come. We're leaving now." They moved fast through the secret tunnel. Dust rose under their boots. The path twisted, sloped downward. Suddenly, a noise, footsteps, voices, coming closer. Darren pushed Zira behind him, knife ready. A blast shook the tunnel. Rubble fell. Enemies had found the entrance. "We run," he said. Zira didn't hesitate. They reached the lower hangar, a quiet cave full of forgotten ships. Most were dead, broken. One still glowed. A human-built shuttle, old, but still flight-ready. Zira's eyes widened. "Yours?" "No," Darren said. "But I think it likes me." They climbed inside. Darren powered the engines. Behind them, echoes of boots, shouting, blasters charging. He lifted off just as figures entered the hangar. Lasers hit the hull, but the shuttle was rising fast. They burst through a hidden tunnel and into open space. Zira sat beside him, quiet, her eyes wet. She turned to him slowly. "Where will we go?" Darren looked ahead into the stars. "To somewhere safe. But they'll follow." He nodded. "Let them try." She reached into her pocket and pulled out the life bond scroll. "I read it," she whispered. He didn't speak. "You didn't answer." Darren looked at her, really looked. "You're still young. You should have your own choice. But if you ever say yes, I'll say yes too." She smiled through tears. "I already did." But far behind them, the palace burned, and the Queen, blood on her lips, stood before the council's army with one final smile. "She got away," she said, "and she had him. And then she fell." The shuttle floated through deep space, quiet like a drifting dream. Inside, Darren sat at the pilot's seat, his eyes fixed on the star map. Beside him, Princess Zira slept with her head against his arm. Her fingers still held the royal scroll, the same one that had offered him more than duty. It had offered him a future. They had escaped death. They had lost a queen. They had no idea where to go next. But for the first time, they weren't afraid. Darren set course for a neutral space station known as Eclipse Point, a hidden hub where soldiers, smugglers, and spies all met but never talked. He needed fuel, food, and information. But when they arrived, the real surprise was waiting. As they docked, an old alien worker handed Darren a small silver disc, no name, just said, "Play it alone." Darren took it and nodded. In the quiet of the captain's quarters, he placed the disc in the comms reader. It blinked once. Then, the Queen's face appeared. She looked pale, tired, but alive. "If you're watching this, then I am either dead or hiding somewhere they'll never find me. I had to make it look real." Darren froze. "The people believe I fell with the palace. That was necessary. But my daughter, our daughter of two worlds, must rise. And for that she needs you." She leaned forward, her voice softening. "The Council has sent bounty hunters, warships, lies. They will do anything to find her. But there is still one way to protect her forever." The message paused. Then she whispered, "I offer her to you, not as a child to guard, but as a future ruler to stand beside." Darren sat back, shocked. He had expected orders. He got a proposal, not of love, but of power, of partnership. Suddenly, Zira entered the room, blinking sleep from her eyes. "You okay?" she asked. He turned off the screen quickly. "Just an old message," he said. She walked over and stood beside him. "I know you saw her," she said softly. "Mother always leaves messages." Darren smiled. "She said you were meant for something greater." Zira looked down. "I'm scared." He nodded. "Me too." She handed him the scroll again. "But I still want you to stay." He looked at her, at the young girl who had once been trapped under rubble, now asking for something far beyond protection. He gently took her hand. "Then I'm yours, not as your shield, but as your choice." Suddenly, the ship beeped. "Incoming signal." Darren checked it and stiffened. "Galactic assembly. Emergency broadcast." He clicked it open. An image filled the screen. A council ship, burning. A voice, one of the elders, screaming, "They're not following orders. The hidden ones. They've awakened." Static. Then another voice, female, robotic, cold. "Your council is dead. The throne is no longer yours. The mixed blood leads now." Darren blinked. Zira stepped back. "What's happening?" Darren turned to her, eyes wide. "You didn't just escape them, Zira." He smiled. "You beat them." The screen flickered again. This time, her mother's voice returned. "The throne is empty, but the people still believe. If you return, they will follow." Zira whispered, "What if I'm not ready?" Darren kneeled before her, gently placing the scroll in her hands. "You don't have to be ready yet. You just have to be willing." She looked out the window at the stars, at her future, then slowly she nodded. "I want to go back, not to be queen, but to be me." Darren stood beside her. "We'll go together." As the ship turned toward them, burning world they once fled, the stars seemed brighter, and in every corner of the galaxy whispers rose. The human stayed. The girl returned. Hope isn't dead.